Just load everything up.
Yeah.
Hey everyone. Hey Jamie.
Twitter. Yeah, it's on.
Awesome. You're live in the group. Hopefully Twitter's away. And I think we can just retweet that one, Matt.
Yeah, just was on it.
Awesome. We'll give it a couple of minutes, then we'll get started. LinkedIn should be going as well.
And they'll have Discord soon, hopefully, and then
fingers crossed.
We're doing it all. So where are you now, Ben? Are you in Miami still?
Still in Miami. Yep. So Abby's now got COVID, so we've been stuck in the Airbnb. Right. For the last couple of days. So it's been 5 days tomorrow. So we're flying out tomorrow to San Diego, which is gonna be great. Get out of Miami and
nice.
Get some work done over in San Diego, which will be fun.
Yeah.
Be the man.
Yeah, good stuff.
Hey, KCH, Tim. I'm gonna stuff up the pronunciation here, but Moranis. I think Moranis.
Yeah, good attempt.
That's how Mr. Veenman. That's very close enough.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start in a couple of minutes, just kicking off. If you've got any questions, feel free to shoot them through. Obviously, we've had a bit of a sell-off the last few days, which is not always fun.
Some big inflation news overnight too.
Man, it is real over here, like inflation. So, first time in the US, you've got your tips, there's sales tax. I should have saved one of the receipts. So there's sales tax, there's service tax, there's retreat tax, then there's the gratitudes, then there's it just goes on and on and on. So it's like you pay for 2 drinks, and then there's more lines of tax and other stuff down the bottom. You go from $20 to. So I paid for a vodka lemonade the other day. I think I paid $25 for a plastic cup of vodka lemonade. This was at the conference actually on the last day. That's absurd. It was this is very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, and if everyone's on stagnant wages, it's how is this possible?
Yeah. Man, even the Uber drivers, people I'm speaking to, it's just it's very expensive over here. Homelessness is up there. Miami, I think in general is not the cheapest place to live, but it's pretty scary over here. Hey Jeff, Tim, maybe a second to crypto research gone through the roof. Yeah, COVID is a good reason to do more crypto investing. We'll give it one more minute, then we'll kick off. Jamie, you're in Miami. Expensive. Man, Miami is a whole different world. Rocked up here. There's Lamborghinis driving down the road. There's people dancing out the back of cars. There's 3-wheeled cars. Girls, that's what you get for drinking vodka lemonade. Mate, the beers are still $15 over here. But yeah, it's just it's wild. It's a whole new world over here. Everyone's smoking weed. Everyone's just the whole place smells like marijuana. It's just a big party down in South Beach. It's just it's madness.
Yeah.
Rightio. Shall we kick things off? We'll do Q&A at the end. So we're going to do a full market coverage today. We're going to do some Bitcoin stuff. We're going to do some altcoin stuff. We're going to do just some macro. We're going to do some NFTs. Then we're going to end with a new airdrops page we've just recently launched. We've done a bunch of research into top opportunities to get some upcoming, unreleased, unannounced airdrops, which we're excited about. So we've got a page on that we'll wrap up at the end. So stay tuned, and we'll also do Q&A as we go. So please fire in your questions. But thanks for everyone for joining us. I'm coming in from Miami. It's about 7:00. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Let's get into it. I'll share my screen here. Man, it's like a newsreader. Okay, let's get into it. So Markets had a pretty big sell-off, and there's been a bit of chatter in the group, over the past few days, just I guess just generally around things were looking pretty bullish, and then a few days later, things have sold off. I guess with the content I'm putting out, the market analysis I've been doing, I've tried to make as clear as possible, but I'll just sort of double down on what I'm trying to get at in my videos and the on-chain analytics that is, still looking, pretty bullish. Is that a lot of this stuff is medium to long term. Crypto is crypto, and Matt, as an investor yourself, we've been in this space I've been in it for 5 years. You've been in it for longer. This is crypto, right? It does the unexpected in the short term. It's the most volatile asset, asset on the planet. And we are not active traders. We have some traders in the group, but Collective Shift isn't providing active trading advice. We're looking for good, solid investments, trying to find the upcoming trends. Yes, we talk about Bitcoin, talk about the space. That's what I'm particularly interested in. But we're trying to find early stage opportunities, getting you in front of the new trends, looking at the best NFTs to buy into, building your portfolio for a medium and long term. We're not looking at super short term day, intra week trades. That's not what we're here to do. That's not what we're experts at. But crypto is volatile, and I think what we're seeing at the moment is there's a number of reasons, why crypto probably in the short term is taking a bit of a hit. For me, one of the biggest ones is the correlation it has with the Nasdaq or the stock market. So, for a lot of investors, they see Bitcoin as a risk-on asset, basically meaning when there's people are scared in the market. There's a lot of macro stuff going on. There's inflation rates. There's rising interest rates. There's the war. People look to less risky assets, and they sell their risky assets, risk-on assets. So that might be tech stocks, crypto, etc. Those things are usually the first things to go in people's portfolios. And we're seeing Bitcoin as tied in with those risk-on assets. Now, is Bitcoin actually a risk-on asset? In my opinion, it's not. It's actually a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against these sorts of things. However, we're so early, right? Not everyone agrees with that thesis, and that's why we're seeing Bitcoin sell off. Now, that's not the only reason. We're just here's a chart here if you can see that. So the Bitcoin and Nasdaq correlation is at record highs. So the 90-day rolling average of the Bitcoin Nasdaq correlation is at record highs. And saw a tweet yesterday by Dylan Leclerc, which was just like looking at he just basically put over the Bitcoin chart and the Nasdaq chart, and if you took away the color code, you wouldn't know the difference. You're looking at that, and if you were to take away the price scales, you basically couldn't tell the difference. It's basically trading the exact same, which is pretty if you look at that, it's pretty interesting. Now, that isn't the only reason why Bitcoin's probably having a bit of a short sell-off. We're also sort of some other things around liquidations with trading. There's been a lot of liquidations in the last few few days, with a lot of longs being liquidated. And yeah, there's never usually one reason, Matt, why these things sell off. But again, short term, we tend to see that volatility in crypto, but long term, things hasn't changed. What are you sort of seeing on your end?
Yeah, it's definitely just that correlation, and I think what many people don't appreciate, or I guess acknowledge, is that yes, there's been people pushing for like getting excited about more institutional money coming into crypto, or allocating 30 basis points, 50 basis points of their portfolio into Bitcoin, which probably not as more as we probably thought there'd be more by now, but I'm still very confident it'll keep happening. But with that, and with more trading desks, like I guess hiring teams to trade Bitcoin and things like that, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you get all these really well trained and educated financial minds essentially treating it like a risk asset. And since we've gotten that more Wall Street money and institutional money and trading kind of desks and whatnot involved in Bitcoin, exposure to Bitcoin, it's been great for more adoption, but it's also been negative because you've seen in recent years the correlation really start to pick up, and Bitcoin and broader crypto being treated as a risk-on asset more and more. And I think I agree with you, Ben, and probably all of us here agree watching this, that long term we think it'll become more of a risk-off asset, in particular Bitcoin. But for now, that's the reality.
I agree. And I think for the altcoin holders out there, like the reality is altcoins could continue to be beaten up. Arthur Hayes, if I have his article here, the founder of BitMEX, I think I did. Let me just bring it up. Put out a like a prediction, and whether or not you sort of follow this sort of stuff. He makes some good points just around the reality of the NASDAQ taking a pretty substantial hit over the next few months, and that's due to the rising inflation rate. So let's touch on the inflation rates first, Matt, then go into the Fed. You can probably explain around like the Fed raising their interest rates and what that means for markets. But man, US inflation jumping to a 4-decade high, 8.5% in March. The person from the White House came out yesterday, and this was a pretty, interesting quote. Extraordinarily elevated inflation data was the quote that
you
she
never
used.
see them.
No. So yeah, look, Matt, I mean, this is going to continue on increasing with the amount of money that's out there at the moment. Like, and that's only the CPI index, right? Like, the reality is it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Secondhand cars, house prices, like it's it's actually nonsense that's somehow they've calculated 8.5%. But what's your take?
Yeah, there was a lot of backlash, at least within crypto Twitter, on like it was 5% increase for shelter, which is like houses and things like that, which a lot of people with rents going up so much and just house prices in general. I think there was a lot of backlash about the legitimacy of that 5%. And it's very likely that if you measure it just as they did in the 60s and 70s, it would be, up into the teens, the percentage inflation. And I probably one more note that's slightly bullish or can signal this might be as high as it gets is that this is really accounted for this massive spike in energy prices and oil and whatnot that we've seen in the past month or so as the Ukraine and Russia kind of conflict and war kind of escalates. So, we don't know. Obviously, that's a big unknown what can happen there, but, we've seen a huge increase in that. It'd be very hard to foresee that like spiking up the same sort of percentage. And that should be reflected in inflation next month with it. There's a lot of people arguing that, hey, this is probably the worst it'll get, which is still, as you said, 4-decade high. But I think this was the 4th month in a row, really, that inflation was essentially in line with everyone's expectations. So, you've got to remember that markets are forward-looking and, theoretically are like very efficient in terms of all these trading desks and banks and analysts kind of forecasting and then pricing that into their valuations. So the markets, should have been pricing this inflation data in, which was essentially, I think it was 8.5, and I think the consensus was 8.4%. So we saw markets kind of rally a bit on the back of that news because it was almost like a big relief because everyone was fearing the worst because what the White House said, which was really weird. They said that yesterday. So the markets did jump on the back of that news, but I think they did still end the day going down. I think that rally was very short-lived. So it's definitely 4-decade highs. It's definitely some interesting times, to put it lightly.
And I think from Bitcoin's standpoint, as a hedge against inflation, supposedly an asset that should have been like, at least holding its value, if not growing during these periods. I think the reality is that, there's not enough people in the community, not enough investors that know the value of Bitcoin during these times. And I think that's what provides opportunities for us and people in the know that the majority don't know. The majority don't know that this thing is what it could be. Does it make sense? So I think when people are saying, oh, well, Bitcoin should be going up, Bitcoin should be, well, why is it doing that? It's because there's the minority that actually know the opportunity of Bitcoin and where it's going. The majority is selling it off. They're scared. They're panicking. They're, getting the cash. They're getting rid of it. So for me, when there's blood in the streets, Matt, as we know, that's where the opportunities rise. And I think, not even Bitcoin, but even some altcoins, have been continually sort of being, pounded during this period. And I think for those assets that you like, it's a good time to be, accumulating. I think potentially it's going to be a lot harder for some of the altcoins to rise back up to their previous highs, considering the amount of pressure that, the market has had on it. So I think I'd be, maybe rebalancing the portfolio, looking at the ones that you're sort of liking. I know there's tax time at the moment for the US, so there might be some strategies around, using some of your losses in crypto to offset your gains in other areas. And, a little while ago and a couple of years ago in the bear market, I sold off some of my, shittier projects and sold into Ethereum, took those losses against future gains, a bit of a strategy. So, depending on your tax situation as well, that can be handy. But it's not a bad time to be either accumulating or rebalancing during this period, I think.
Yep.
Not sure if you have any other thoughts on that, Matt, but let's get into the rising, just quickly, rising interest rates, what that means in terms of, the stock market's obviously been on a massive growth over the last couple of years. And, Bitcoin has been pretty correlated to that. When there's rising interest rates, they're, slowing the economy, they're tightening up that money circulation, which, theoretically means that, companies won't grow as fast. And that's why the market's probably starting to predict that at the moment. What does that mean for Bitcoin and crypto, Matt, altcoins? Do you think that fundamentally changes anything, or how would we see the next few months playing out?
Yeah, I think for the smarter money, it's not really going to change much. As you said, I think the smarter money kind of prices all this in, and as Chris has commented in the YouTube chat there, if you can bring up that one, Ben, that was a really good comment. Which, yeah, the market yesterday reacting. A lot of people had priced this sort of thing in, and I think that's going to be the same, at least with the smarter money in Bitcoin and altcoins, as interest rates rise, which, everyone who knows knows even just a bit about economics, financial markets, will understand that that's coming, and it will be priced in. I think it's just obviously how aggressively the Fed and other central banks around the world, really try to tighten their monetary policy, which the main way to do that is lifting interest rates. Another way to do that is by stopping quantitative easing quicker than they've otherwise said. And in a more extreme case, you can have quantitative tightening, which is actually, going out there and buying back, or basically unwinding your balance sheet and bringing it back down. That's probably more of an extreme case. I think for now, you'll see the central banks just slowing down and stopping their quantitative easing. But these are all measures and tools that they're called, monetary policy tools that central banks use to, really adjust the amount of money in a given economy. And it really then affects their economic growth and inflation. So, really, it's everyone at the moment is watching these central banks' language just to see their stance in terms of how aggressively they're going to lift rates. And then the market will continue to just react to that language, is what we're seeing at the moment. So there's some commentary out there and expectations, or growing expectations, that the next rate hike from the Fed will be, in fact, 50 basis points, so 0.5%, as opposed to the more traditional 25 basis points, which again is rarely done, and it's only done in times when they're trying to play catch up and be more aggressive. So in terms of what it means for Bitcoin and altcoins, it's given how deep we're into this, it's I would expect it not to have much of an impact if it all goes to plan. However, as I said, if they change that language, if they get more aggressive, that will be bad for Bitcoin, in my opinion, in the short term. But that long-term thesis, Ben, as we talked about, and we always touch back on, I don't really think it changes much of that at all.
A couple of questions coming in here for DHT. So this was a project that we're invested into, a collective shift. So DHT, Dehedge DAO, it's a platform where you can basically, it's like the eToro copy trader. So you can build portfolios and people can copy you on chain. And that's just been, the price, I think we're probably down 60, 70% since September. I mean, you look at all DeFi projects across the board, and it's been, pretty well pounded of this period. And for me, I think I look at DHT and it's a real world product, right? Like, it's something that makes sense. It's simple. And for me, I think the copy trader that eToro has it's awesome. But again, on eToro, you can't, copy on chain. I think something like DHT is something that's really cool, where you can follow, your favorite influencer or, investor and copy them on chain. The reality is there's not that many new participants coming into you know, Bitcoin, crypto as a whole. Like, yes, the volume of the active addresses is continuing to increase, but the FOMO or the retail audience like piling in that would use a product like that just simply isn't there right now. I think if anything, a lot of those retail audiences went to the NFT space and probably currently still there, or looking elsewhere because the price has been chopping, going down. It's a little bit boring. So until we see a new influx of retail investors, altcoins have that time in the sun again, I don't think we'll see projects like that really start to shine. However, in saying that, I mean, it's blood in the streets, right? Like, I think DHT is like less than $10 million market cap, super risky. Like at this point, where it's at, it comes into question about the ability for some of these projects to actually fund their growth when the market cap gets that low. So, it's a survival of the fittest. Again, it's probably just like planting the seeds, like we sort of recommend here. It's putting 1 or 2% of your portfolio across some of these really high risk assets. Some of them are going to make the money back. Some of them will fail. Some of them will 10x. It's just trying to find some of the best projects. And for me, we continue to hold, and we'll wait and see when the time comes. But yeah, I think that's probably my viewpoint at the moment. Nothing fundamentally has changed. It's just a market variable that we're sort of seeing at the moment.
Yeah, DHedge continued to, I was just looking through their recent announcements and, still pushing out releases. There was this thread that was just published on Sunday that just highlighting a number of different pools that are, managed by different, asset managers and even people who work for different asset managers outperforming the market. As Ben said, like the utility is still there and the effect on DHT is still there, like as a connection to how well these perform. However, yeah, it's just who are the people that are going to deposit into these pools? Arguably, that pool, no kind of pun intended, not to get confused, or the people who would do that are probably the exact same volume of people and types of people that we had about 12 months ago. So to Ben's point, and what I believe is that, it's going to take some time for a new profile and a new influx of people, retail in particular, to, discover these sorts of solutions, and find out about them and to put their money into them cheaply as well. So a big problem for DHedge in particular was just how expensive it was to even get, in terms of fees due to base layer Ethereum. So DHedge is one of the ones that's really, pioneering and being among the first solutions to go live on these different scalability solutions. So again, that just makes it easier. Well, easier in terms of fees. At the moment, not easier in terms of user experience. So another headwind for DHedge. But yeah, again, it's sprinkling your seeds. It's seeing where the use case is. So a team like DHedge, I have no issues seeing them if they were to get stuck in terms of runway as a business, they are a DAO, but I would see they would have no issues, in my opinion, like raising additional capital if they did have to extend their runway, because the utility, in my opinion, is there. It's just they need to get that new influx of consumers, which they can kind of piggyback in a way off of innovation happening within Ethereum, which is really has been ramping up the last 12 months, but will really get to the next level in the next 12 to 24 months with Ethereum scaling.
I think the other point too, Matt, who's backing the team. I know Apollo Capital here in Australia is super bullish there. I think I'm going to get his name wrong, but the founder of Apollo
Henrik.
Capital, Henrik, is either an investor or he's an advisor.
The co-founder.
He's a co-founder, is he? Yeah. So these VC funds don't like to lose, right? And they're investing in the best companies, and they like to win. So seeing smart money as well back some of these projects is also a good positive. On the other side, some lessons I've taken away from. We'll just make this more broad now. Thanks for your question, Adam. Hope that helped. More broadly on altcoins in general, what I see in the crypto community is people get super fixated on projects, right? They become like a cult, and they they become blindsided to everything else that's going on in the crypto ecosystem. They become so fixated on a project that no matter what they're doing, no matter what's going on in the community, like they're all in. And I think that's a pretty dangerous place to be in my opinion. Like you see the diehard, Tesla fans, or you see the diehard,
Apple.
Apple fans, like, and you could probably think about similar ecosystems or community in crypto, right? Sure, Matt, you could probably reel off a list.
Yeah.
XRP is one that comes to mind. Like people just are so fixated on this is the project that's going to change my life, it's going to change the world, and they don't see, the competition growing, or they don't see, how they might not be doing as well, or they just, they just become blindsided. I think that's a really dangerous position to be in when you become such a cult-like following to a certain project. If you don't have those, if you have the blinkers on, you're not seeing external. It can become a pretty interesting situation as an investor because you become less diligent and you're now emotional. You're not looking at it, from a clear lens, if that makes sense.
I was about to say that, Adam. Yeah, the Link Marines. I haven't seen the Link Marines in a while. The Chain Link evangelists. They've gone off the face of the earth. But yeah, another one there. It's a real. I tell my friends and family this all the time. Like, crypto investing is a fast track in almost it's probably too strong of a comparison, but it's analogous in many ways to a psychology degree. Obviously, professional psychologists know a shitload more about psychology than crypto investors, but you learn so much about yourself in terms of how you think and also how other people think when it comes to something that has skin in the game in terms of investing, and how people will act in that, and what your reactions to when your project or investment isn't going too well, and conversely when it's going really well, how your mindset can change. So it's really interesting. Good challenge.
And also who you listen to in the community, who brings you into crypto, where are you getting your informational sources. I think it's really important you have multiple, resources and information to get your crypto sort of sources from. Like, we'd hope, Collective Shift is one of those, but it's important to have, different ones that may be varying opinions so you can form your own opinion. That's super important. I was watching a video the other day on Dave Portnoy's channel, and he had a guy that was trying to introduce him to crypto through just on the street, came up to him and was talking about Hex. Now, I'm not going to get into a discussion around, Hex today, but for me, being introduced by certain people that are, this guy very much sounded like a bit of a cult follower to Hex. That's a dangerous position to be in my opinion. If you're being introduced into crypto through various protocols or projects that, have one way of thinking, and you're not seeing the wider, what crypto is trying to do, what Bitcoin is trying to do, I think that's dangerous as an investor because you get siloed into this way of thinking. And, I don't think that's smart, but, I think that's just coming back to multiple information sources. Matt, let's move on. Let's go to the fear and greed index. We're seeing it. The extreme fear crypto is in at the moment. Like, people are panicking, and it's interesting to see Bitcoin's sort of been shopping around now since where are we, about February, March of January. We're continuing to see this sort of rise and fall of Bitcoin, but again, looking at the markets when there's opportunities, it's usually when there is fear in the market. Like, be greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when people are greedy. I think, we could continue to see this consolidation and chopping around. I think we saw Mike Novogratz said that we could be chopping around 30 to 50K all of this year until we get out of the macro headwinds. It's a great time for accumulation, in my opinion. I think you're getting cheaper Bitcoin, you're getting some cheaper of your favorite altcoins, and it's a good time to be accumulating. It's there's not a lot of hype, there's not a lot of people FOMOing in. This is usually, when it's pretty boring, the right time to be buying.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing more to add there, Ben. That was, yeah, no, it's, well, it really is. It's, reflection. It's so true over a long-term horizon.
Let's look at some of the on-chain analytics as well, just to wrap up Bitcoin. We're seeing, if we look at this chart here, this is an interesting one I saw from Glassnode. So this is looking at the Bitcoin's amount of addresses that are in profit. So we've seen in previous bear markets, 2015, 2018, 2020, we're seeing the number of participants in the network that are in profit vary between 30 and 50%. The number of addresses in profit at the moment is around 70 to 75%, which is a huge increase to previous bear markets. Which, if you're looking at this chart alone, would make you think that we're not in sort of those harsher bear markets that we, are in the past. And this quote sort of stuck out to me. The current bear market is not as severe as the worst phases of all prior cycles, with just 25 to 30% of the market being at an unrealized losses. Now, that doesn't always mean, whether someone's in pro loss means they're in bear market, but it's not as heavy as where we have been in the past. Do you have anything else to add there, Matt?
No, it's not great reading that, but no. Reading that initial reactions is like, yeah, I think my initial thoughts were, okay, how much of a percent or how much of those are long-term holders who are just like never really going to take that much off the table. But it's a very, it's I think, a lot of indicators at the moment that we've probably been alluding to is like, okay, things can't get much worse, it may seem. But it's extremely important to take into considerations things like how that valuable on-chain data that Glassstone just provided in that Cointelegraph article about, there's still actually like historically we could be still due for some more selling because of when you say over 2/3 of the body of all addresses in Bitcoin's history are in profit, or the ones that are holding Bitcoin are in profit. There's a strong argument that is not going to be the worst it gets in this cycle. But what have we got here, Ben?
Yeah, valid point. I think on the other side, we're seeing, again, still at all-time highs, the amount of supply of total amount of Bitcoin in circulation held by people that haven't sold in over a year. So I think we're seeing, even though some of those people in profit, I mean, I'm in profit, Matt, you're in profit, probably a lot of people on the stream are in profit because we've been here for a long time. But are we selling? Have we made the gains that we wanted to with Bitcoin sitting at 39,000? For me, no way on earth. So if we're looking at 64% of total supply being held by hodlers, and 70% of those people are in profit, I think we're seeing a lot of people that have probably been in profit for a long time. Do we think that we're going to sell? I don't have a magic ball, but I think what we're seeing at the moment is not the hodlers selling. This is the people that are shorter term holders. We're seeing traders. We're just seeing people like rebalance their portfolios because of the macro situation we're in.
Yeah. That's some better hopium. That's good. That's a good dose of hopium. That second graph is heaps better. And it's been the case for a while. It's short-term retail money. We've proven it through Jackmate's videos. He's done a great job of proving that time and time again of the bands of different holder bases. That's encouraging.
Matt, before we get into NFTs, if those are on the live, please feel free to shoot in your questions. If you love these videos, we try and do these weekly when we can. So give us a comment or a like. Really does help us. And subscribe to our new YouTube channel. Shoot in your questions, and we'll try and get to those at the end. Matt, do we want to touch on Maple? I know Maple has been, a pretty, just on a whirlwind. So Maple is an investment that we made at Collective Shift. So for those of you who don't know, we have a transparent portfolio where people can see exactly what we're buying, what we're selling at any one point. Maple was a DeFi project we invested into in September last year in the middle of a bear market, and it is absolutely just taken on a tear. So there's a lot of other investments we've made in here, but Maple, I think it got up to nearly 250% increase against USD. Smashing the Bitcoin pair, smashing the ETH pair. We've made a few other investments that are also doing pretty well. So in the middle of a bear market, which is pretty cool. So well done to everyone that jumped onto that. Matt, do you want to touch on some of the stuff that Maple are getting up to at the moment?
Yeah, I've been meaning to check this out. I think this dropped overnight, but I think there's been kind of the ongoing kind of discussions between Maker and Maple. This is probably just one that I'm not. Again, it's on my kind of to read list today. However, if we just scroll down there, Ben, MakerDAO is obviously one of the oldest projects on Ethereum. Just keep going down. A partnership for growth. Now, I just want to read. Yeah, just there. Just Maple's grown to facilitate 1.1 billion with Maple is uniquely positioned to help Maker scale DAI. So the stablecoin behind Maker through a combination of alternative collateral sources that have been mentioned. Is eligible to be integrated with the Maker protocol through a new D3M. Additionally, since Maple deals exclusively with loans to institutional borrowers backed by enforceable legal agreements, these liquidity provider tokens represent a diversified lending portfolio that's backed by real world assets. So this new D3M is one that, I've been had on my to-do list to read about, but it's just, more, I think the big reason, one of the main reasons why we decided to invest in Maple last year was that it was just like how big their team was getting. I think, from memory, like they'd maybe doubled in size from about 5 to more than doubled. I think it was about 5 to about 12 full-time employees within it was at the time about the last like 3 or 4 months. And one of my, lines of thinking was, that's that once those people get onboarded, like a lot of them were in growth as well. I think they get hired like a head of growth. Once those team members get onboarded, it'll take a few months to kind of kick in, and then they can kind of get the ball rolling in terms of making new deals and helping Maple Protocol grow. As I've said other times, that's not the whole reason why you would invest. You wouldn't invest in a project just because of their team, because you need to actually see as if something has utility and something actually makes sense to invest in. But when I saw the people they had recently hired and their former companies that they had left from, that was something that I got particularly excited about. And we're starting to now see the fruits of their labor starting to come out in terms of, having more resources to approach MakerDAO and do something with them. I saw another thing that they're working on with Maven 11 Capital, which was one of their first kind of borrowers on the Maple platform. And then, another thing that, got my attention about Maple Finance was just their transparency with, they've always done these quarterly DAO reports, which is like very, setting the standard in terms of reporting by a DAO. I think Index Co-op is probably another one that is up there in terms of full transparency. And Maple also does a great job. And if you just look at those stats, it's quite impressive. The expenses, notably for all these, I guess, growing early stage DeFi projects, a lot of their expenses come from, this temporary kind of almost subsidies in a way. And obviously staff as well for Maple DAO. So to see one in profit already, like you don't really hear of many tech stocks or software, like any company that often really at this such an early stage being in profit like that. So you can give that a read to the Treasury report. And I was looking at Masari yesterday, and I filtered by the first 300 market cap, cryptos by market cap, and Maple was the only one year to date that's been 3-figure percentage gains. So I think it was up by 230% year to date against USD, and the second best one was like 97% out of the top 300. So I was super proud about that, and a lot of members have been as well.
Yeah, that's unreal. Even to turn a profit, as a early stage
in this market too.
In this market, 100%. Okay, keep sending in your questions, guys. We'll get to those soon. Matt, do you want to get to NFTs? Do you want to wrap up the NFT market for us?
Yeah, sure thing. I will get my screen up here. So NFTs, you have to, I think, accept it, Ben.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, coming up. Yeah. So so I think there was a lot of interest or a lot of excitement probably early in April on the back of primarily the Altcoin drop. So the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yuga Labs did a massive token drop, which kind of drove a lot of liquidity into people selling that ape and buying NFTs. We also saw Azuki really pump, and then with their 2 airdrops, which me and Ben and I covered in our last live stream, was about worth 8 to 10 ETH worth of airdrops. So a lot of Azuki holders would have sold one of those airdrops and use that to put it back into the NFT market. And that's kind of that's kind of now kind of stopped, I suppose, that influx of capital. And I think on the Collective Shift Twitter we did highlight there were 6 days in a row of 100 million plus daily volume on OpenSea, which I think might have gotten up to 7 or 8 days, which was the first time that's happened since really in the strong hot part of the market back there in late January. I did say at the time I was looking for just one really big candle, which daily count, which we didn't see. And yeah, I suppose I wanted to just focus a bit now on just probably the reasons why, or partly the reasons why this is happening. I think if I'll get up here, I think honestly at the moment, I reckon there's a lot of the NFT market is holding off and parking a lot of ETH on the sidelines. There's 3 projects really coming up that are, I guess, people are saving their ETH for. And as a result of that, you're just seeing, a really anemic kind of liquidity, anemic volumes in specifically the small cap and medium cap NFTs as well. So VFriends Series 2 is launching today, I believe, or at least for April the 25th for the general public. I think it starts today for people who are on the allow list, so 0.335 ETH each. I reckon there's a lot of people saving up to buy multiples of those. Probably more of an impact next would be the next one here would be obviously the Moonbirds drop, which is happening I think in about 72 hours or so. They're doing a raffle which you need 2.5 ETH or in your address at the time. I think it was the snapshot was maybe by Sunday night. So they're going to cost 2.5 ETH each if you do get chosen, and if you do happen to win the raffle and get on the allow list. And more importantly, in my opinion, is that I think there's a lot of people who are hoarding or reserving a bunch of ETH, to buy on secondary, right? Because you can only apply once per address, and it's linked to your Twitter account and to your Discord, I think, as well, in terms of when you apply for the raffle. So they've done a great job of really trying to minimize the amount of it can get botted, and they're working all this week on de-botting all of the raffle applications. So I think there's a lot of people who are wanting to get 3, 4, 5 Moonbirds, and they're going to have to buy off secondary. So these things, it's largely expected that these things will shoot up to 5, 6, 7 ETH straight after like they mint, so probably by like Sunday or so. And I dare say there will be people buying 15 to 25 ETH worth of Moonbirds on Sunday and Monday. I strongly believe that. And that is a very, very large amount of ETH, and that is why I think we're kind of seeing a big slowdown in the ETH or the NFT market rather. Just finally, the last point why people are parking capital is also we got to remember that the Yuga Labs, their first series, like they're doing two-part sale of their metaverse or Yugaverse or the other side. I'm not sure what they're calling it. The first sale of that hasn't been announced yet, the date, but we are pretty sure. I think there's been hints by the team that it will be in April, I believe. So again, I can guarantee that there is a lot of whales and big bags out there that are parking ETH to deploy once that sale goes live, because of the strong conviction amongst the investor community about getting any exposure to anything that Yuga Labs does. So I have not really seen a scenario like this where there's probably 3 big projects: VFriend Series 2, Moonbirds, and Yuga Labs metaverse drop, all kind of happening close to one another, and it's forcing a lot of ETH to be parked on the side. And then obviously, we do have the tax season, which Ben also covered at the start of this video. And then probably another secondary factor is also just more bullish people are starting to become a lot more bullish on ETH as well. So people who perhaps dabbled in NFTs a few months ago are probably maybe thinking, oh, let's just keep it in ETH. I know I've spoken to a few people who are of that opinion, of being like, I just want to keep my money in ETH because of the merge coming up and how much more attractive ETH is going to become as an investment due to the reduced emissions that are going to happen when it converts to proof of stake. So all of that to say, NFTs have been pretty quiet, but I think after April, I would expect it to really start to kick up again pretty aggressively on the back of all that unlocked or locked ETH just being, freed up and going through the market. So I'm excited about that. There's some good discounts at the moment, and yeah.
Matt, just quickly on the raffle, it's pretty crazy to think. I mean, I don't know what floor price you think Moonbirds can get to, but by the sounds of it, you think there's, what we're seeing is a lot of capital is going to be flowing into that project. Is it not crazy to think that the people that will get in on the mint is adjudicated by a raffle? Like, is that, like in the real world, like not the real world, in the VC world or the company raising world, it's like, it's a selection of the biggest money, smartest people who you select to come in and sort of like get into a project early. This is literally a raffle. Yeah, it's a raffle.
Yeah.
It's like winning the lotto.
Like going down to your local like bingo, winning a meat tray or something.
Yeah, but you're gonna win an NFT.
No, it is pretty nuts, and they've worked hard on thinking about the most equitable way to do it. I think they were working on doing some like silent Dutch auction sort of mechanism, but in order to make that, it would have had to have been launched in May or June. It would take some time, so. Honestly, like they dumbed it down and then simplified it and just went, the best way to do this is a raffle, and to spend 2, 3, 4 days deploying a bunch of algorithms and to really try to wipe out all the bots who are trying to gamify the raffle. So that was they got some smart developers working on that, which is again just reassures me a lot. And it is pretty cool that the average person on the street can have just as good of a chance of winning the raffle as some really well-connected VC. And that's why Moonbirds never did any allow lists as well. That's a big reason for that, because they didn't want to influence who gets access and who doesn't. So it's a really, really hard when you got such strong demand for a project, how you actually navigate the day one, the sale of it, which is again, like for such a project that's got multiple years, decade views, it's day one, it gets a lot of attention, but ultimately it'll not really be remembered in years to come.
What does a project like this, Matt, do with, I think I saw, might have been GT tweeting this, that, I'm not sure what the math is on how much ETH they're going to raise from this sort of launch. I don't know how many. It was something like, I think GT tweeted something like $85 million this project will raise just from the mint. What could you expect a project like this to do with that sort of money? Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it sure is. It's 7875 times 2.5. Which is almost 20,000 ETH. I've seen some people calculate 10,000 times 2.5, but that's not right, because there's only 7875 who will actually be buying them. What do they do with that money? It's just salaries is the biggest one. So they'll be hiring aggressively after this. And then I would say some legal. It would go into some legal as well, in terms of just making sure that they're all kosher with their, I suppose, staying in line with securities law and whatnot. And then one particular to Moonbirds will be organizing conferences, which is a lot of, they get pretty expensive as well. So things like that, I would say. Salaries, people gotta get paid. if you gotta hire good people. And then also that would get reinvested into rewards. So for this nesting mechanism as well, they'll be able to do some pretty cool things with rewarding, the people who nest for the longest. So I've drawn this analogy, which I've seen the team use. It's similar to like your frequent flyer points or your credit card points. The highest tier will get rewarded disproportionately to the lowest tier, which you don't really see NFT projects do at the moment, which is pretty surprising. It hasn't been done to date. So again, I dare say a lot of that, or not a lot of that capital, but a non-insignificant amount of that capital they raise will be put into rewarding the highest tier of nesting as well.
And that's what Adam is
Adam,
doing.
I'm hoping some of us get it. There's a lot in the community who have applied. Hopefully at least one or two of us gets the raffle. Yeah. Honestly, I'm probably going to buy on secondary, like begrudgingly, if I do miss out, just because I do expect this to get over 10 ETH like by the end of the year.
Yeah. Selling the kidney mat on the secondary to
Yeah. I've got a meeting with someone soon actually about that.
Nice, man.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for NFTs. I know we're coming up on time, and I want to awesome. take some questions too. But yeah, Yugaverse, everyone's gonna have their mind on that. Gary V's Series 2, and then Moonbirds. Just quickly, Benny, you doing anything about Series 2, or have you got a Series 1 at the moment?
I don't have Series 1. I've got my Book Games tokens, and I applied for the I don't even know what I did. I had to apply for the mint
raffle kind of thing.
The raffle for V Friends 2, but it was only like 60% of people that got Book Games. So I think what he did, there was only 60% of the Book Games people could get access to the pre-mint because there was too many people, and then I think he was giving those people that missed out, so something else. But I did get through, so I'm going to go over there and suss out what I can pick up. But I'll be picking up some V Friends 2 NFTs. I have applied for the Moonbirds raffle as well. So
wicked, nice. I think May. Yeah, fingers crossed. I think it's on the weekend. May, I think it's like May 23, 24, 25 is VCon as well. So I would expect a lot of hype around that for the NFT market broadly. And then I think we got NFT NYC in June, which is by far the biggest annual NFT conference. So yeah, I would suspect there's going to be a ton of big announcements coming up in the next, May and June in particular.
Exciting. Let's roll into some questions. We've got 5 minutes of questions, then we'll wrap it up. Everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you can give us a subscribe and a little like, that'd be muchly appreciated. Really do appreciate it. Thank you. Chris, there's a lot of blood in the streets. My portfolio was up 1,200%, now only 500%. That's only a crypto topic, isn't it? It's only up 500%.
Yeah.
I've been quite a few of these big dips. This one is painful. Any thoughts on Rocket Pool? Look, Chris, I think, you've been around for a little while. More than most, that this is just another little cycle of crypto. Just look at the amount of people that are piling in, the money, the growth, the venture capital, the jobs. This space is just only compounding year over year. Yes, price is not probably going to the places where we want it to right now, but man, I just think this is only a $1 trillion asset. Bitcoin, $2 trillion if you include crypto and altcoins. Like, it is just tiny compared to the amount of money that's going to be flowing into this space soon. Just continue to hodl, in my opinion. Rocket Pool, we spoke about Rocket Pool recently. I think Nick spoke about this as a staking, pooling, staking as a service. Matt, I haven't used it personally, but I think we did recommend it as a go-to place if you're looking to stake some ETH.
Yeah, I haven't used it personally, but I think it does generate a bit of a higher APR relative to some other options on the market, and I think there's some more risky stuff that generates a higher APR as well. But yeah, this will Lido, you've seen, as well as Rocket Pool, really ride this wave of anticipation for the merge. Lido in particular has just kind of gone nuts as well. And Rocket Pool will continue to just get more popular, especially once the merge and proof of stake goes live. I think one thing on the merge to everyone watching this is that I did hear just recently that there were these expectations that June was likely for the merge. I have heard that that's becoming like very, very, very unlikely at this stage. So as I said in my most recent video about 3 misconceptions about the merge, one of those misconceptions was that there is a date for it and that it's going to be June. And yeah, it's just proven about a week later that everyone now is saying it's delayed, but really it never had a date. So like it can't really be delayed. It was kind of just like everyone in the know has kind of always known that it never has had a date, and it's more just never really going to ever had a date. All that needs to be done to achieve the merge is just a checklist that they're getting closer and closer to ticking off. But I know they tested some things, and there was I think one bug in particular. So highly experimental technology at the end of the day, very hard to do. So look, July, August is looking more likely for when the merge happens, but I'm happy to wait. Like, just gives us a longer time to accumulate ETH before people realize how exciting it is about the issuance in particular, how much that'll decrease. And for that 6 months after the merge, you're going to see, stakers not even able to withdraw their rewards. I think that's another thing that people don't appreciate. That's just going to be only for 6 months. And then also people who have deposited into the Beacon Chain contract all those years ago, like late 2020, I think it was, they've never been able to unstake and withdraw their ETH. And that is also going to be happening about 6 months after the merge. So it's pretty nuts. You're actually going to have a 6-month window of stakers not able to withdraw their rewards, and then also stakers not able to withdraw their capital of ETH as well. So I think it's going to have a massive supply crunch on ETH, and it's going to be pretty exciting, I feel, once people actually start to clue into it.
If you haven't watched that video, I recommend you going over to checking out that video Matt did recently. It's called Ethereum Merge Incoming, What You Must Know. Really good video. Thank you, Matt. I'll take a couple more questions. Is NFT Worlds a buy now? Thank you, Moranis. Or just on the watch list? Nathan spoke about this morning. Just on the watch list for the time being. However, we are looking pretty closely into it as potentially a new ESCO. We're just doing a little bit more due diligence. I'm not sure if you're across this one, Matt, but Nathan posted this one this morning.
Yeah, this is one where you can invest in the NFT, like as in the NFT Worlds NFT, or they're one that's already tokenized, similar to like how there's the ape token for ApeCoin. NFT Worlds has already had the Worlds token, or WRLD as you've got there as the ticker. So if you do like NFT Worlds as a project, it can be a good way to get exposure if you didn't want to fork out that much for the NFT, because I think they're about 8 to 12 ETH. I think they got as high as about 20 ETH. It's another one of those ones that's it's kind of like a metaverse play. You've got individual projects purchasing NFT worlds and deploying a fair bit of capital. So when I see that pricks my ears and like makes me notice NFT worlds. I think the bullish case for it is that it's basically built and integrated with the Minecraft software. So again, just making it more familiar and accessible to arguably the biggest game in the world. But that's as much as I know at the moment. And yeah, I know Nathan did a post overnight, Australian time overnight, which he really put forward his case. I haven't gotten to reading it yet, but I've seen a lot of people I respect be excited about it. But in terms of, there's just becoming so many metaverse plays at the moment. It's there's going to be so many of them that don't make it, really.
Yeah, there's a lot more coming out. We might. Are you across the Phantom network, Matt?
Not the PH Phantom network. The FANTOM one. I'm not sure that. Yeah, that's a layer 1 blockchain, and they've got a passionate community and building apps and whatnot on top of it. I feel like when Andre left, even though he wasn't really a core developer, I think people thought he was, and that really hurt. I think from the outside, the perception on Phantom with an F, but I'm not too familiar with the PH Phantom. Sorry.
Tez, you just joined as we're just wrapping up, mate. All good. You can rewatch this back on YouTube and in our Collective Fifth community. If you've liked this video and you want some more of our premium insights research, if you're busy, you're time poor, just like I was, getting into the space. We build Collective Shift to help you get ahead of the herd, get you ahead of all the research and the nitty gritty. We do all that for you. We've got a team of experts, Matt and the like, to do all that research, provide it to you, as well as our investments portfolio, so you can see exactly what we're buying, what we're selling. And well done to all the members that have jumped on Maple and NFTX and the Mint. You got people into free Mint, just all sorts of stuff going on inside the membership at the moment. So well done to everyone jump onto that. Thank you, everyone. If you like this video, please give us a like and a subscribe. It really does help. We'll probably wrap it up there, Matt, unless you have anything else.
Nah, that's it. Just sold premiums now to 1.2.
What are we getting in at?
0.25. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Wow. Still money to be made out there. Definitely.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks everyone.
Good chat. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Matt. I'm getting dinner.